This is obviously a very important day for my family. It's an important day for me. Today, I formally announce that I will seek the nomination of my party to be the next mayor of the city of Norwalk. I do not take this step lightly. I know the path is hard and the odds long. I am not the obvious choice to become Norwalk's next mayor, and I am not nearly as well known as some others. But as I look at the challenges that we face as a community, and I look back on my life of community and public service, I believe that I have the experience, the ability, the integrity, and the vision to help lead this city in a new direction. So now I get to introduce myself. I'm told I have 2 minutes. I was born in the middle of the last century, the third and youngest child of Frank and Mary Miklave, two hard-working people who we now know them to be part of the greatest generation. They were a typical hard-working family, and we were of modest means. The end of the month was reserved for modest meals: peanut butter and jelly, Franks and beans, and my personal favorite to this day, spaghetti with ketchup. My kids think I am nuts. I learned firsthand what it was to do without, and I learned the difference between wants and needs and nice to haves. I was taught that challenges were not something to complain about, they were simply something to triumph over. I attended public schools. I am a product of public education, and I went to high school during the Watergate era. That event and the endless drama that played out live on television shaped my life and inspired a lifetime passion for politics and the law. So it wasn't surprising that when I had the opportunity to go to college, I went to school in our nation's capital. I attended the American University and I studied political science. From there, I was lucky enough to get into the University of Notre Dame Law School. And there, I packed up everything I owned, put it in the back of a 1976 Oldsmobile Omega, and drove to South Bend sight unseen for the first day. There, I found my profession, my faith, and my calling. I learned the reward of hard work and the duty to demand justice. I learned the responsibility we have to fight for the values we hold dear and the obligation we have to each other. My path after law school took me to private practice, government service, and ultimately to become one of the owners of a $150 million law firm employing 1,000 employees in 11 cities across the United States. I have had to learn how to build a business, and I've learned the pain and suffering that happens when you do it badly, and the joy that comes when you do it well. In 1990, Sandra and I finally married. We moved to Norwalk, and I fell in love with this community. We are both involved in the life of this community, and eventually I was asked to run for the Norwalk Common Council. I was elected in 2001, and I became chairman of the planning committee. In my first term, I was elected by my colleagues to become president of the council. I have served on the Common Council for 8 years, and during that time, I've had my share of difficult decisions to make. I have tried to approach every decision the same way, with an open mind and with consistent beliefs. Beliefs that I have learned since birth and that were honed at Notre Dame. I believe that making government work well is hard work, that it takes time and effort and patience and persistence. I believe government works best when it works in the open, is accountable and accessible, and follows the rules. I believe that leaders must ask hard, probing, uncomfortable questions. I believe that making the right choice is not always easy and oftentimes not popular. But I also believe that men and women of goodwill can do great things. I believe that public officials have a responsibility to remember that public servants serve the public and not the other way around. And I believe that public officials have to be held to the highest standards. here, good enough simply is not good enough. When I was first elected to the Common Council, I took an oath to put the people of this city first. All of the people. Not one special group or special interest or clique, but the people that voted for me, the people that voted against me, and the people that didn't vote at all. I have tried to be true to that oath. I am running for mayor because for the 22 years that I have lived here, I have listened as politicians in both political parties proclaim that change is just around the corner and things have stayed the same. For 22 years, I have watched as taxes rise, we move dirt from one pile to another, and parents lament the state of our education system and the yearly fight over books and pencils. For 22 years, I have watched as we debate the kind of buildings we're going to build rather than the kind of jobs we're going to create. Now, I like the current mayor, and I like each of the other candidates that seeks to replace him. But I believe that I have a lifetime of evidence, a lifetime of achievement that shows that I will achieve the things I say I will achieve. I am running for mayor to make a difference, and I will wage a different kind of campaign. I will focus on the issues that face our community, the methods we can use to tackle them, and the future we can build together. I will spend my time talking about what we can do together to change the trajectory of our city and affect the lives of the 86,000 people who live here. Now, for me, change begins and ends with our budget process. The city of Norwalk has a budget. We will spend $350 million, $1/3 of $1 billion. Now, we will spend the entire 8-month budget process talking about the 5% of the budget we cut, not the 95% of the budget we keep. We'll spend the entire budget process without considering what we're trying to achieve through the money we're trying to spend, whether we're measuring that success appropriately, or whether we should be spending that money at all. Across this country, communities that have adopted performance-based budgeting have seen real savings. And I believe that performance-based budgeting and holding people accountable is the key to unlocking savings in our budget and the future of our city. But you don't have to ask me. Advocates of performance-based budgeting have been fighting this battle for over 20 years. People like Martin O'Malley, the current governor of Baltimore, the current governor of Maryland, when he was mayor of Baltimore, or Stephen Goldsmith, who was mayor of Indianapolis and served on President George W. Bush's election campaign as his chief domestic policy advisor. Now, there's one thing I know. When I have a progressive Democrat and a conservative Republican who believe the same things about budget reforms, I know they must be onto something. Cities like Baltimore, Maryland, Springfield, Massachusetts, and Warren, Michigan, that have adopted performance-based budgeting have unlocked hidden savings. And I believe that that is the key for us. Change will be hard, and we'll have to invest in that change. But the cost to our city, the cost to our children, will be far greater if we do nothing. If there is one sacred obligation we owe our children, it is to leave this place better than we found it. I believe performance-based budgeting is the key, but not the end of the process. If we hope to do the things we must do, improve our education system, improve our infrastructure, support economic development, we will not be able to tax our way into a new generation. All we will do is further burden taxpayers, seniors, the less fortunate out of their homes. Performance-based budgeting will save money. But more than that, performance-based budgeting will hold public officials accountable for their actions. And in the last 2 years, we have seen our share of scandal, misguided spending, and finger-pointing. Oak Hills Park ran out of money 90 days after they repeatedly claimed that they had plenty of money to last through the winter. The city clerk's office is under investigation for missing money, money that was missing for years, and no one knows. And we now know that the Board of Education underpaid the city's insurance fund by $1 to $2 million a year for 4 consecutive years, and the city did not notice. That's right. For 4 consecutive years, the Board of Education underfunded the city's insurance fund, and the city did not pick up on this error. Who's responsible for that? And who is responsible for these epic failures? The silence from this administration is deafening. This is why I've been fighting for over 12 years for budget reform. In the first term on the Norwalk Common Council, I fought for and spoke out against the kind of budget process we currently see. I have repeatedly called for budget reform because of the very things that we see here today. Now the time to call for budget reform is past, and it's time to actually implement it. We will not be able to tax our way to the future. But I believe that together we can put the partisan differences in the past behind us, that a united Norwalk can move forward. Together we can triumph over all adversity. Divided, we will get nothing more than what we've grown tired of already. I have no illusions about the path before us. I know that my opponents are capable, ambitious men, and I know they will challenge my vision. But I also know that failure is not a sin. The sin is complacency. The sin is believing that good enough is good enough. And so I ask you to join with me today, now, here, to help us build a better community, a better future, a better Norwalk. And we'll start now. And we'll do that brick by brick, block by block, and child by child. Thank you very much.